Hello and welcome everybody. In this Everspace 2 video I will break down my Silent Bob Vindicator build that certainly plays out a little special in comparison to more traditional setups. This build is a lot of fun for every encounter on Nightmare difficulty and can even do Lunacy 500 rifts as long as you embrace the hide and seek playstyle. So if you feel more like a commander than a fighter pilot and enjoy a more tactical approach while overseeing the battlefield, then this setup is perfect for you. If you are more the balls to the walls type, then I would recommend watching my gunship build. How this plays out is that we combine a cloaking mechanic from one legendary item with Bob as our 7th combat drone to end up as some sort of cloaked necromancer. In this role we will strike our enemies from the shadows at 2 km range, while mostly staying out of trouble and letting our highly motivated employees do the dirty work. In addition, we will try to maximize our personal damage by utilizing some interesting perks and weapon effects, so we can constantly slow enemies and gaining bonus damage as well as an increased ultimate build-up. Ship and equipment. Obviously we are using the Vindicator here, the smallest and for that reason also the most agile of the heavy fighters in Everspace 2. If you want to see more details about this class, check out my dedicated video. In this build I'm using the following passives. Maximum number of drones increased by 1, drones are invulnerable during phalanx, which is your ultimate. Drones regenerate 1% hull per second and 20% increased weapon damage for 6 seconds after a drone is destroyed. The last passive can be swapped for the 50% reduced damage from enemy drones or the drones explode on death ability. Those three are more or less equally useful and you can pick whatever you like most. In terms of equipment, you will need a few special perks to trigger all of the functions, but they are not mandatory. They will, however, make your life a lot easier, especially in rifts or high-risk areas. My first weapon is a star-forged powerful penumbra flag. Nice damage at nearly 2 km range, especially useful against packs or drones. The primary weapon I use the most is a star-forged powerful coil gun with increased armor damage, a damage increase in sunlight, and the ability to disable enemy shields. The last perk is really strong because of the high fire rate it will trigger very frequently. The fire rate also ensures that we will land a critical hit on a regular base. This build has roughly a 20% critical hit chance. Those critical hits will trigger a free secondary weapon launch, which then will significantly increase our primary weapon damage with one of our personal perks. More on that in the perks and devices section of this video. The aforementioned secondary weapon I use is the high capacity web missile. Those need the perk to fire a free missile on primary weapon critical hits and the cannot be intercepted ability. This combination will automatically fire a non-interceptable web missile with a 20% chance on critical hits with your primary weapons. Thanks to the high fire rate of our coil gun, this happens pretty reliable. We will then gain 50% increased crit chance against the slow target with one of our personal perks. So you can see a nice chain of synergies that we are using here to improve the otherwise not groundbreaking weapon damage for this ship class. You should of course use your best possible power core, shield, sensors and booster that you have available. But those equipment components do not define this build. The two legendary items that do make this build are the plating and the cargo unit. With Pango's Pride, we will automatically cloak after 3 seconds of not boosting or taking damage, turning you into a hidden command center to observe the battlefield, stay at around 2 km range, while picking out some targets and keeping an eye on your drone's health, always ready to jump to some wrecks if needed to replace a destroyed drone. And Bob, our legendary cargo unit, adds another drone to your team for a total of 7 combat drones. Those can easily pick apart targets while free roaming on Nightmare difficulty and will also do the heavy lifting during a Lunacy 500 rift. For consumables I use some nanobots, an emergency shield, and carry 2 slots of damage boosters in rifts that I frequently pop, especially at the final boss. This compensates the not so fantastic weapon base damage of the Vindicator. Perks and devices. Let's take a look at the player perks. Some of those are pretty significant for this build. The level 5 perk can be Close Call for rifts to give you a second wind ability if things go south very quickly. I prefer the defensive Massacre perk because this will complement another perk, and usually you should jump out of trouble if you can't maintain stealth to re-enable your cloaking mechanic and recharge your shields. For the level 10 perk I use Downtime Warrior to increase my energy efficiency. You can easily trigger this with your teleporter device. As level 15 perk I use Excessive Force. We are trying to maintain stealth as much as possible. This should give us full shields most of the time. The 30% increased damage at full shields are a much needed boost because our ship class does not offer any positive damage modifiers by itself. We are trying to utilize critical hits, so the level 20 perk is set to Critical Faculty. This will improve our ultimate recharge, especially when firing at webbed or EMP afflicted targets. Exploitation is crucial for this build. This level 25 perk is the reason we use web missiles in the first place, and the occasional free missile supports this further. 50% increased critical hit chance against movement impaired targets is a huge damage boost and also supports our level 20 perk. For the last perk I chose Overkill. This will help to refill our ultimate as fast as possible and is another much needed damage push in any rifts or high risk areas for this class. With a duration of 15 seconds, this buff lasts for quite a while. In terms of devices, I use the EMP set to Hard Reset. This is preserved for sticky situations when I messed up and be swarmed by enemies to quickly re-enable stealth and teleport away. Teleporter is set to Scurry. I use this to maintain my distance in rifts, get out of trouble or quickly approach a hostile combat group. This build tries to avoid boosting, so we are in need of some additional mobility. The temporal nano compensator is a life savior in rifts when you have not been able to get out of trouble in time, which can happen faster than you like. And lastly, I use the missile defense system set to Sustenance. Another option here would be the front shield generator. Because we try to maintain a 2 km range for the most time in this setup, the offensive devices are usually not your best choice due to their limited range. While roaming the open world on nightmare difficulty or doing jobs shouldn't cause you any troubles with this build, you really need to adapt a certain playstyle if you want to succeed in Lunacy 500 rifts. It is a very non-aggressive approach where you need to keep an eye on your surroundings, check your range and choose your shots wisely from the background. If you start to draw fire, you need to quickly reposition yourself, regain stealth, if needed use the nano compensator and replace destroyed drones before re-entering combat from a stable and safe position again. Trying to fight your way out while drawing fire, having lost a lot of drones and being unable to go back into stealth will quickly kill you in a high lunacy rift. You really have to think of yourself as a commander acting from the background and executing your tools quickly when needed. Pop phalanx on cooldown, but try to save up a final charge for the last stage. Otherwise, the final boss can give you a hard time with the drones not focusing on this target. Also save up at least 2 damage boosters for this encounter. Once you get used to this playstyle, Lunacy 500 rifts can become a chill and easy to farm event. You might not have the highest kill speed or fastest time, but for the most part you will keep yourself out of trouble while sitting in your cloaked vessel. I found this to be a nice change of pace in comparison to piloting a striker, interceptor or gunship. If you have more build suggestions or additional tips for this setup, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching and take good care of yourself.